These 5 shadow tests decide if you're one of the elite dark chosen ones. There are some of us who didn't come here for peace, not at first. We didn't incarnate to be soft, to float in blissful ignorance, or to recite pretty affirmations while the world burned inside us. No, we came for the fire. We came for the confrontation. We came to walk into the shadows that others run from, to see what lies beyond fear without blinking. And if you're watching this, chances are you've felt it too. That pull, that tremor in your soul that doesn't recoil from the dark but leans into it. Maybe you never had the words for it. Maybe you thought it was just trauma, or madness, or chaos. But what if I told you it was something else? What if I told you it was the beginning of the tests? 5 of them. And only the ones who pass these are chosen to wield the rarest form of spiritual power, the dark, light. This path is not for everyone. In fact, it's for almost no one, because unlike what most spiritual teachings say, the shadow doesn't exist to be healed and erased. It exists to be integrated, honored, and sometimes even used. The elite dark chosen ones are not evil. They're whole. They're the ones who've walked through the underworld and didn't lose themselves. They found themselves. But before that awakening happens, the shadow tests you, and it doesn't knock politely, it breaks in.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first test is the call of disruption. One day, without warning, everything starts to fall apart. Not externally at first, but internally. The things that used to bring joy feel empty. The people in your life feel distant. The world feels fake. You start questioning everything. Your beliefs, your identity, your purpose, your sanity. It's not depression, though it can feel like it. It's disillusion. The veil is thinning. And here's the trick. You can't go back. Once the shadow begins to rise in you, it's like a serpent uncoiling. You can try to suppress it, numb it, spiritualize it, but it will wait patiently, and it will return. The real question is, when you feel your old self dying, do you resist, or do you let it burn? This first test is about destruction, not random chaos, but sacred dismantling. The shadow removes everything you've built that was never yours to begin with. It tears down false identities, shallow relationships, inherited beliefs, and it does so without apology, because only when everything false is stripped away can the real power begin to awaken. You feel like you're losing your mind, but what you're really losing is your mask. Think back. Have you gone through a season where your life seemed cursed, chaotic, or cursed on purpose? That may have been your first invitation. And if you're still here, still breathing, still curious, you might have passed it. But passing the first test doesn't grant immediate clarity. It throws you into the second, isolation, not just physically but spiritually. You begin to feel like nobody understands you. Not your family, not your friends, not even your spiritual community. You say things that others can't comprehend. You feel things that others dismiss. It's not that you're broken, it's that you're being separated. The shadow wants to see what remains when the crowd is stripped away. It wants to know, do you still speak truth when no one echoes it back? And during this test, something else begins to happen. You start attracting strange energies. People project their darkness onto you. You become a mirror, a trigger, a portal. Some people are inexplicably drawn to you. Others suddenly turn cold, distant, or even hostile. This is not personal. This is energetic sorting. The shadow realm is watching. It wants to know, can you walk in solitude without folding? Can you remain loyal to your inner knowing when the world brands you too dark, too intense, too much? Ask yourself, what did you do the last time you felt completely unseen? Did you silence your truth to belong? Or did you let the silence become your teacher? This is where most people break. They mistake their isolation for failure when, in truth, it's a crucible. Because if you move through it, something ancient awakens. You begin to feel a presence inside you, not external, but deeply internal, a voice, a fire, a knowing. It doesn't speak in words, it speaks in energy. And it doesn't comfort you, it challenges you. It says, you asked for power, are you ready to pay the price? And here's the rawest truth most people will never admit. Power comes with a price. Not because the universe is cruel, but because true power must be earned. Not through perfection, but through integration. The elite dark chosen ones are not the ones who avoided the shadow. They're the ones who welcomed it, who invited it to dinner, who asked it questions no one else dared to ask. And when it is asked, that's why the third test, temptation, is so dangerous. Because once you've made it through destruction and isolation, your energy starts to rise. You become magnetic. People, opportunities, even supernatural experiences begin to swirl around you. The world starts offering you shortcuts, fame without depth, influence without integrity, power without purpose. And the shadow watches silently. It doesn't stop you. It won't, because the real question isn't whether you'll be tempted, it's whether you'll remember who you are when you are. At this stage, many fall. They choose the appearance of power over the embodiment of it. They start performing instead of channeling. They begin to believe they've arrived when really they've just entered a more subtle illusion. So now I ask you, what would you do if everything you ever wanted was placed in front of you, but you knew it would cost you your truth? This is only the beginning. 3 tests in, 2 more to go. The next ones aren't about what the world throws at you, they're about what you do to yourself. The internal reckoning. When the enemy is your own soul. The deeper you go, the quieter it gets. Not because the world stops making noise, but because something inside you starts breaking away from it. You begin to realize that the real war is not happening outside. It's not in the chaos of your relationships, your career, or even the systems of control we've all been conditioned by. The real war is internal. And when you reach this 4th test, the one only the truly initiated speak of, you understand something terrifying and liberating at the same time. The enemy has always been within. This is the test of the soul wound, the part no one wants to face. Because now, it's not about what the world did to you, it's about what you did to you. It's about the parts of yourself you abandoned to survive, the masks you wore, the betrayals you committed against your own knowing. You begin to remember every time you silenced your voice to keep the peace, every time you ignored your intuition to make others comfortable, every time you played small so others wouldn't feel threatened. And suddenly the pain isn't just about what others did to you, it's about what you allowed, what you co-signed, what you tolerated. This is the reckoning. This is the moment where most people reach for distractions. They'll dive back into relationships, substances, spiritual bypassing, productivity, all in the name of healing or moving forward. But you know that's not the way anymore. You feel something ancient rise in your bones, a kind of grief that doesn't belong to this lifetime alone. It's ancestral, it's cosmic, it's yours, and it's not here to punish you, it's here to free you. The soul wound is not a singular moment. It's a fracture in the soul's memory, created the moment you learned that being fully you was unsafe. And now, the shadow asks you to return to that moment, not just to remember it, but to reclaim it, to go back to the exact point where you split from yourself, and to choose differently. Not with your mind, but with your energy. That's how deep this test goes. It doesn't care what you believe, it cares what you embody. So how do you pass this test? You stop running. You stop blaming, you stop explaining, and you start witnessing. You sit with the versions of yourself you've hated. The jealous one, the manipulative one, the weak one, the one who begged for love, the one who weaponized it. You sit with them all, not to judge them, but to include them. You say to them, "You are still part of me, and I choose to bring you home." That's when the shift happens. That's when the power begins to move differently. Because now, you're not just a seeker, you're a sovereign. You're not just confronting demons, you're reclaiming them. And here's the parts that will either break you open or break you down. The soul wound doesn't go away. It transforms. It becomes your source of truth, your edge, your offering. Because once you've met your own darkness and stayed, you become the kind of person who can hold space for others without flinching. You stop projecting your pain onto the world. You start alchemizing it into wisdom. And that's the mark of someone ready for the fifth and final test. But before we go there, I want to ask you something. Something you can't answer with words. Can you forgive yourself for the things you did while you were still learning how to survive? Can you forgive the version of you who didn't know they were already whole? Because that forgiveness, it's not about making peace with the past. It's about reclaiming your authority in the present. And without it, you cannot move forward. You'll just keep cycling through illusions, new teachers, new beliefs, new goals. But the same core wound will be running the show, and the shadow knows it. It's not here to shame you, it's here to test your willingness to be whole. At this stage, you begin to notice something strange. Your dreams become more vivid. You start receiving messages, not just from guides or ancestors, but from your future self. You start hearing whispers in silence, feeling energy before it arrives. Time begins to warp. You sense yourself across dimensions, and the world? It starts responding to you differently, not because it changed, but because you did. You're no longer reacting, you're remembering. You're no longer seeking power, you are power. And yet, the shadow has one last test, one final gatekeeper that stands between you and full integration, and it's the one most people fear the most. The gate of no return, letting your old identity die so the real you can rise. 7. This is where the path narrows so much that most turn back, where the ego clings for dear life, screaming its last desperate attempts to stay relevant, where every part of you that once found safety in control, validation, and identity starts to tremble at the edge of annihilation. You've passed through the fire of destruction, the silence of isolation, the seduction of temptation, and the mirror of your own soul wound. But now comes the final test before rebirth, the death of who you thought you were. This isn't poetic, it's existential. It's the moment the universe demands that you surrender not just your story, but your attachment to identity itself. The shadow doesn't want your performance, it wants your essence. It wants to know, who are you without your name, without your trauma, without your mission, without your mask? This is the gate of no return, and passing through it is not about effort, it's about release. You don't fight your way through, you let go. You let go of being the healer, you let go of being the survivor, you let go of being the chosen one, you even let go of being spiritual, because all of those roles, no matter how noble, are still costumes, and the shadow wants your naked soul, nothing less. Here's what they don't tell you. Spiritual awakening is not glamorous. It's not always bliss. Sometimes it's a quiet devastation of everything you held sacred. Sometimes it's realizing that the purpose you thought you had was just a stepping stone. Sometimes it's watching your entire personality dissolve and having no idea what remains. And in that void, the mind panics. It screams for something to hold on to, but there's nothing, just space, just stillness, just being. This is the test most people fail, not because they're weak, but because the unknown terrifies us. We'd rather cling to a suffering we understand than surrender to a freedom we cannot predict. But those who pass, they don't just awaken, they ascend. Not in some fantasy sense, but in a grounded, embodied form. They become unshakable, not because they're invincible, but because there's nothing left to defend. They've died and returned. They've faced the abyss and found home in it. And here, something strange happens. You begin to feel paradoxically lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because you're no longer carrying the weight of pretending. Heavier because you've now become a vessel for truth far beyond your personal story. You speak, and people feel it in their bones. You move, and timelines bend around you. You rest, and even your silence teaches. Not because you're trying, but because you are. And the irony? The moment you stop trying to be powerful is the moment you become it. Not the kind of power that dominates, the kind that radiates, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself because it remembers itself. You become a living initiation for others, a mirror, a flame, a gate. But even now, a question lingers. Can you live without needing to be seen? Can you serve without needing to be thanked? Can you walk in power without needing to be praised? Because that's the final riddle. The shadow will still whisper, not to test your darkness, but to test your emptiness. It wants to know if you've truly let go, if you've truly become a vessel, if you've truly crossed the gate of no return and left the illusion of self behind. The elite, dark, chosen ones don't arrive here through status or skill. They arrive through surrender. They are not crowned by others. They are crowned by the void. And when you wear that crown, everything changes. The birth of the dark sovereign, living as a sacred weapon of truth. If you've walked this far, through the fire of destruction, the isolation of becoming, the temptations that seek to dilute you, the reckoning with your soul wound, and the silent death of your identity, then you are no longer the same being who started this journey. Something in you has changed forever. You've crossed the gate of no return. And now what emerges is not a healed version of your former self. what emerges is something entirely new. You are no longer just a seeker. You are no longer just awakened. You are no longer someone who carries the light while tiptoeing around the dark. You are now something far rarer, far more potent. You are a dark sovereign, a living embodiment of integrated power, unshakable presence, and unapologetic truth. And now the tests are over, but the mission begins. See, most people think spiritual power is about peace, love, light, but real power, earned power, comes from holding the entire spectrum. It's not just about radiating love, it's about wielding truth with precision even when it burns, even when it disrupts, even when it costs you everything. You don't just walk through the world anymore, you shift it. Your presence exposes illusions. Your words break spells. Your energy activates codes in others who are ready and terrifies those who aren't. You are no longer here to be liked. You are here to be felt. As a dark sovereign, your life is no longer about comfort. It's about impact. You are now a sacred weapon, sharp, intentional, and forged by shadow. But this doesn't mean you live in aggression or ego. Quite the opposite. The more integrated you become, the quieter your power grows. You don't need to shout. You don't need to prove. You exist, and that is enough. Because now your frequency is a force. Your silence is a sermon. Your presence is a portal. But with this power comes responsibility. You are no longer allowed to play small. You are no longer allowed to shrink, to dim, or to pretend. You've been initiated into something ancient, something that moves through you, not for your glory, but for the collective evolution of this planet. Your life is not your own anymore. It belongs to the truth. And truth, as you now know, does not always feel good. Sometimes it dismantles everything. Sometimes it leaves you alone in the wilderness. Sometimes it makes you the villain in someone else's story. But that's the price of sovereignty, because you no longer serve comfort, you serve clarity. So what does life look like now? It looks like radical alignment. Saying no when your body screams to. Saying yes when your soul commands it, even if your mind is terrified. It's walking away from anything that dilutes your frequency. It's speaking truth when everyone else is silent. It's holding space for others to unravel without needing to fix them. It's becoming a living reminder that power is not something you take. It's something you embody. After you've surrendered everything you thought you were, you'll still feel fear sometimes, but it won't own you. You'll still feel pain, but it won't define you. You'll still walk through darkness, but now you walk through it as the light hidden within it. And here's the deepest secret. The elite dark chosen ones are not rare because they're special. They're rare because they chose to stay when everything inside them wanted to run. They chose to surrender when they could have controlled. They chose to break wide open instead of harden. They chose truth over comfort. Every single time. So I ask you one last time, not as a guru, not as a teacher, but as a mirror. What does the world look like when you stop pretending and start embodying the raw, untamed, fully integrated force you truly are? Because if you're ready, then welcome. You are one of us now. You are the weapon. You're the healer. You are the destroyer. You are the rebirth. You are the truth that no one can silence, and your time has come